evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and that includes everybody. Uh, Welcome to Beer Blather 176. What is it that we call this thing? Oh, yes, Axis of Hogwash, which will become clear in a moment. Uh, as usual, a little bit of house cleaning first. We are going on YouTube and Twitter as well. We're not going to stay in YouTube too long. We have some videos that we want to share with you. And, videos and YouTube don't mix. So, plus, we don't want to be there. I mean, in case we haven't made it sufficiently clear, if you're still watching us in YouTube, what are you waiting to come over to our Odyssey channel? The links are right there. Just click on them and you're here, and don't come telling me, oh, I didn't know that Wictor was in Odyssey all this time. I get that, Thomas, every other day. Somebody in Twitter the other day asked in the Quad Verum account, how did you find Wictor? And say, I didn't find him. He's been with us from the beginning. I didn't know. Well, let me know the address of that rock you've been under for the past 3 years.
I just watched a video of a guy, and he announced that he has pancreatic cancer, and he said, I just want to have business as usual. No condolences, no prayers, no nothing. Please don't clog up the comment section with that. We just need to carry on. I looked at the comments. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers.
Can you at least respect a dying man's wish, you nincompoops?
No. And you can tell people a million times where I am, but they'll still not know.
No, something doesn't click. But it's okay, because we're going to talk about such nincompoops in just a little while. Funny that it should go there. Twitter, we're going to stay there for a while and see what happens. Since we don't give a shit about Twitter, if they ever want to cancel that, so freaking be it. But in the meantime, if you're watching on Twitter, make sure that you note the Odyssey channel, because when Twitter, in the era of Elon Musk, which has been banning with gusto, as in the worst days of 1.0, when they do ban our Quad Verum channel, at least you'll know where to find us. And, oh yeah, if you're not subscribed to our QVTV channel in Odyssey, please click on subscription. It's free. What the heck? Doesn't cost you anything. And click on notifications. That's a little bell right next to subscribe. Oh my God, how original, isn't it? And that way you get notifications when we go on the air. If you want to support this channel, if you can afford it, click on join and join us as a member of the channel, like many have done, and help us keep the doors open. And you can always drop a buck by clicking on support and supporting this channel through the chat, much like the YouTube super chats, except the good people in Odyssey don't keep 45% like those thieving bastards in YouTube. Having said that, I'm running out of air, and we just started. This is Saul Montes-Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from Florida. This is like Pygmalion, you know, Florida. And right there, see, this guy, occasionally smiling at the bullshit I spew, is Thomas Wictor, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers. A hermit with a heart of gold, actually, but no, scratch that. With a heart of stone for you. He has absolutely no tolerance for imbecility and gives zero shit for nincompoops. That's why we like each other. That's another question people ask. Eh, because we're out of shits for idiots. And with that said, how is everything with you in the land of gruesome?
Well, it's good. The dog days of summer are here, and we realized the neighbors on both sides cut down all their trees for some reason. So both their houses are painted white and have no trees. So we get reflected heat and sunlight from both sides. And so far, we haven't been able to find a solution because it raises the temperature on I mean, you know, radiant heat and everything. So um, there's really no solution. We're looking at these weird cloth sails that you install, and they come down at an angle, and they're only guaranteed for 3 years. But I don't know. I can't think of anything to block out.
Yeah, like an awning.
Yeah, it's like an awning, and you um they have like, I mean, I think you can fold them up when they're not
Yeah,
in use, but
very popular in South America. They cool down the air outside the window by about 10 degrees, which when it's 120 in California, it's like whoop
well,
de doo. But it feels cooler.
I'm looking for something that'll block out the reflective, the light and the heat, because like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really
It gives the sunlight going into the room, and it gives a feeling of coolness.
these people, they didn't cut down their trees. I mean, they've lived there long enough. The parents died in 2013, and my father was fighting with them over their barking dogs long before that. The 16-year-old is now a grandmother, so she's like she had her own baby at 16, and then that girl had a baby at 16, so she became a 32-year-old grandmother. So
They
maybe
they're like half numbers in shoe sizes.
well, it's pretty amazing to be a 32-year-old grandmother, but she is. And they suddenly decided they were going to strip their yard of every tree and put in astroturf. So looks beautiful, and they only have one working air conditioner. They had a central air system that crapped out, and they took the all the components off the roof, but they've only got one window air conditioner in this giant house full of people. So
Yeah,
I
and all of those people are inside that room most of the
probably,
day.
but they're currently gutting the inside, and there's like one or two guys that are doing it. They're like handymen, so they've gutted it, and they're like they're bringing out support beams, and they're putting in new support beams, and so I have no idea what's going on in there, but it's got to be hell on earth. And then of
Oh
course
boy.
this lady here cut down. Let's see, had to be 100-year-old trees and bushes and rose bushes. Everything's cleared out to bare dirt, and then of course she has no money, so the yard has been bare dirt with heat blasting our house during the summer, and she's always boasting about how she doesn't even have to use her air conditioner. The house is so. It's like, no, you can't afford to run your air conditioner, you know. Um,
I knew a woman in New York, a neighbor of mine. On I was living in a loft at Broadway at Franklin, and Boney. I'm not going to say the last name. She was living there. She had a wonderful loft, but she used all her money in purchasing and in conditioning the loft. So she never ran her AC. And in the summertime in New York, her apartment was like a fucking sauna. It was 120 degrees. and the woman sitting under a fan, sweating like a stevedore in the Sahara, would tell you, that no, I don't think we need air conditioning yet. It's not hot enough.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, she was the attorney for the children of the Rosenbergs.
Wow.
And if she is still alive, she's probably, like a lawyer for Antifa or some shit like that. She was really crazy. But so in retrospect, it was kind of like divine retribution that she had to melt her ass in the heat waves of New York.
Well, my mother refused to have air conditioner put in this house. So when I used to come over in the last 3 years of her life to talk to her every night because she had nobody to talk to. So I would just sit and listen. And my father, as his diabetes destroyed every system in his body, and it was unmanaged diabetes. He was a big ice cream, cake, and cookie fanatic, and he never changed how he ate. So by the end of his life, he had no ability to regulate his internal temperature. So he was kind of like he'd become cold-blooded, and he's got about I left all the thermometers just because why not? But there were about 12 thermometers all over the house, and I would check the thermometers. It'd be 95 degrees inside this house at like 1 a.m, and it's like, and she'd be like fanning herself, going, "I'm fine." So when I moved in, the first thing I did was I bought those portable air conditioners. They're not window air conditioners, but they're standing air conditioners.
Yeah, the stand-up ones.
And they've got these exhaust hoses that go to the outside. Yes. I've got 2 on either end of the house, and they do a fine job.
Oh, they do, yeah.
So I don't need central air, and and
in the winter you can put it in the attic. Of course, that is after you move, because there is no fucking winter where you live.
Well, this one of them, we decided to get just one. It's actually a heater as well. So in the winter, I used an electric heater the first winter I was here, and I ended up with a $700 power bill for 1 month. And it was eerie because it was just this little tiny electric heater. So this thing, it's I don't know how it heats. It draws in air from the outside and heats it something.
An inverter.
What's that?
An inverter is about 30% more efficient than a regular.
Yeah.
It draws heat from the air.
Yeah. So the bills, I mean, okay, the power company tells us we're going to start rolling blackouts on Monday already in July, whatever it's going to be, 18th, I guess. But we're still plowing ahead with our electric car plan.
I just got a note from the Florida Power and Light that the government has approved the new rates. It's a drop. They're dropping the rates because they went up with oil prices and gas prices, and now since oil and gas has dropped, they're dropping the price of electricity in Florida. Amazing how it works when you have a working government.
Yeah, not in California. Our rates are going up, and
barrel of oil at $150, electricity at X. Barrel of oil drops to 70, X plus 15.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it goes up again, 2X's. It never goes down, does it?
No, not in California. And our grid, our grid is from the early 60s. So, it can't even manage now, but our idiot governor, signed legislation that's going to ban new internal combustion engine cars by 2030, which is, as we know, right around the corner, 7 years away. So, I'll be long gone by then. I was going to stay here indefinitely, but now I'm going to get the hell out of Dodge because, like, we were speaking on the phone yesterday, and you were talking about the reason the government is so successful in passing these outrageously stupid laws is that the remaining Californians are properly conditioned, and
Oh yeah.
they are. They will vote. They will vote blue no matter who, and
No matter who.
they'll
And
complain the whole time about how horrible everything is, but they'll still vote for the people
oh
doing
yeah,
this.
no, but when you vote, all you can think of is your government subsidies. Um, remember, they used to say that when you rob Paul to dress Peter, you shall always have the unquestioned support of Peter's.
Yeah,
Paul, fuck him. Who cares? And that's what happens in phenomena like California or Venezuela or the rest of South America and all that jazz. The people who are on the receiving end don't want to see that go, and the people who are not receiving want to figure out how to get a piece of the pie as well. So
yeah,
essentially, these people will continue to vote themselves the largesse of the government
yeah.
at the expense of rich corporations, the rich who can afford it, and all that bullshit, until they run out of other people's money. The only time that socialism ends is when they run out of money and the whole thing goes to shit.
For the first time in its history in San Francisco, the most expensive row of businesses in the city, they're all empty
Yeah.
now. They're all gone.
Yep. They're
For
gone.
100%, they're all gone.
That downtown is crazy. The cancellations of I attended my first convention at the Moscone Center in 1981. It was brand new and it was fascinating. And downtown was
Yeah,
exhilarating, to put it mildly.
yeah,
And right now, all you can hear is crickets. They've
yeah,
had like cancellations at the Moscone Center that essentially is a cancellation of 40,000 visitors
yeah.
just for those conventions. And in consequence, hotels are closing down. Luxury hotels are essentially giving the keys to the city. You keep the shit, I'm out of here. The Hilton stopped paying their debt in downtown San Francisco.
Yeah.
They're gone. And you know what that does to the tax base.
Well, this is the thing. California has a progressive tax that means when the rich don't make money, the state doesn't make money. So who do they tax? They tax the middle class. And
Yeah.
in California, the top tax bracket begins at 40,000 a year. So you're taxed at the same rate at 40,000 that someone making 2 million a year is taxed. And Californians,
Isn't that lovely? And by the way, you cannot live too well in LA on 40 grand a year. I don't give a shit. You're
no,
poor.
I mean, the whole thing is just, I mean, it's too stupid to even mention. So, I wash my hands of it. I'm going somewhere else.
More or less like the people in YouTube who can't find us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, I don't know. You just get, I mean, it's kind of a ritual. When I used to be on Twitter, I would have to say the same things to the same people every single day. And finally, I confronted this one woman and I said, I'm having to like reassure you every day.
Yeah.
This has to stop. And she said, well,
hand holding.
she said, I just want to be reassured. And it was like, You're a grown woman. Reassure yourself. I'm not your daddy. I'm not here to hold your hand and rock you to sleep at night. Like do your own frigging research.
Oh, you mean mother! How dare you?
I don't know. I mean, I think
You were mistreating a poor grandmother with diarrhea and diabetes. They've done this shit to me a gazillion times.
no. I mean, this woman was 40 years old. She looked like she was about 32. She was fine. But she was just this whiny, dependent, clingy woman, and there were just too many people like that.
Yeah.
And there were a handful. They were all women that they learned how I did what I did. I taught them, and then they went off and did it for themselves, and became experts at reading battle damage assessment and things like that.
Yeah.
They could tell you which weapon caused which what. It gave them a sense of pride of knowledge, and it allowed them to not depend on others to tell them. I mean, okay,
You mean they're free from the likes of Tucker Carlson?
Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk or whoever, this panic mongering and World War III watch. Biden activates the ready reserve because we're getting ready for World War III with 3,000 reservists. I mean, it's too stupid.
I saw some shit that some people posted from Twitter in SQV, not as breaking news shit, but laughing at it. That's a good news about
Yeah,
our little corner now. But
yeah.
oh my god, I'm gonna see if I can find one for you now. But it's like they're gonna start World War III. They're already, and don't you know that plans leaked that NATO is going to attack Russia?
Ugh. Sure, the Germans and the Norwegians and the Austrians aren't. The Germans and the Norwegians and the Greeks, they're just chopping. What?
The Greeks want nothing more than to go to war with Russia hand in hand with Turkey.
You broke up.
Yeah, the Greeks
Well,
want nothing
they're
more.
all champions.
Did I break down again? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Greeks want nothing more than to go to war with Russia hand in hand with the Turks.
No, I mean, this is all too stupid for words. It's like, okay, the last people who want another world war are the Europeans, and number two, I would be willing to bet my house that the Russians don't have workable nukes anymore.
Yep.
Elon Musk, his position is that the Russians have bottomless resources, so Ukraine needs to just give up now.
Yeah, that's...
The Ukrainians were showing off artillery depots that they captured that have shells from 1916. 1916. So,
and I guarantee you 70% don't even explode.
Exactly. They were saying these don't work. They were rusted. It was like they'd been stored underwater. So, this is Russian propaganda. They said we have bottomless reserves of tanks, of artillery rounds, of bullets. These Russian troops were showing their supply of bullets. They had 2 handfuls of bullets, and they had 2 AK-47s for a unit of 22 men. So don't tell me about the bottomless Russian reserves. They don't
have
exist.
Nothing.
They don't
At
exist.
this point, they have nothing. And what they are using and how they're using it The Ukrainians use a HIMAR to do away with an SA 300, I think it was,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, that the Russians used to blow up a pizzeria.
Well, did you see the Ukrainian drone video of one of their most sophisticated anti-aircraft systems firing off a missile, and it went like this, and then it went whoosh, and it whooshed right past the
Yeah.
drone, like right past, like you could they freeze frame the video, and you could see that this was a Tor or something like that, and it didn't work. It missed the drone. So they're still launching their nightly drone attacks, and the Ukrainians have a 90 to 98% shoot down rate.
Success rate,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So,
and
but that doesn't stop them, does it?
it doesn't stop it. And the Russians have spent all their best munitions on terror attacks. They're stupid. They don't have any missiles left, any ballistic missiles to hit Ukrainian headquarters or things like that. So meanwhile, the Ukrainians are blowing up Russian generals left and right.
Yeah, they got another big one.
Yeah,
I think we up to 25 generals already.
yeah.
It,
Okay,
it's I imagine that when they come to notify a colonel in Russia that he is about to get his general promotion, he says, no, 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 please, no, I got a family. Let me be a colonel.
well, we'll get into Russia in a second. You had a quote you wanted to read, and then I want to briefly touch on this brilliant Tucker Carlson town hall meeting where Tucker eviscerated everybody. So you
Okay.
read your quote there.
Let's go. It's relatively short. Um, it is a tragic but inescapable fact that most of the finest fruits of human progress, like all of the nobler virtues of man, are the exclusive possession of small minorities, chiefly unpopular and disreputable. Of the sciences, as of the fine arts, the average human being, even in the most literate and civilized of modern states, is as ignorant as the horned cattle in the fields. What he knows of histology, say, or protozoology, or philology, or paleontology, is precisely nothing. Such things lie beyond his capacity for learning, and he has no curiosity about them. The man who has any acquaintance with them seems to him to be a ridiculous figure with a touch of the sinister. Even those applied sciences which enter intimately into his everyday existence remain outside his comprehension and interest. Consider, for example, chemistry and biology. The whole life of the inferior man, including especially his so called thinking, is purely a biochemical process, and exactly comparable to what goes on in a barrel of cider. Yet he knows no more about chemistry than a cow, and no more about biology than its calf.
No, no, this is true, and the evidence is that Tucker Carlson had a town hall, and there's 2 points I'd like to touch on. First is Carlson told Tim Scott, and here's the quote: Ukrainians wanted to sit down with the Russians, but were blocked by our government. Okay, that's what Carlson said.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
These are all the times that the Ukrainians did sit down with the Russians. Okay, remember the war started on the 23rd or 4th
Of February 2022.
February of 2022. So 28th of February 2022, 3rd of March, 7th of March, 10th of March, 14th through 17th of March, 21st of March, 29th and 30th of March, 7th of April, and 11th of April. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 9 times Ukrainians sat down to negotiate with the Russians. After that, the Ukrainians stopped negotiating because the Russian positions were completely unacceptable. You have to give us everything we've taken. All right? You have to give us everything we've taken. You have to recognize that this is ours. Number 2, you have to completely get rid of all your armed forces. Nothing. You will have nothing, not even a self-defense force. And number 3, you have to rewrite your constitution to make it easier for us to come into your country and take it over without firing a shot. Now, there isn't a country in the world that would agree to these conditions.
No.
As late as the 16th of November, 2022, the U.S. was urging the Ukrainians to negotiate with the Russians.
Yes. And I would say even later.
That's 10 times. So Tucker Carlson lied, and nobody has fact-checked him on this. I haven't found a single person who is interested, no more interested than a barrel of cider would be interested.
Exactly.
Tucker. Now, the second thing, I Mike Pence blew himself up. That's all his fault when he said, whatever he said. It is Tucker reeled off a litany of problems. Basically it can be condensed into all our cities are decaying, and he reduced the Ukrainian war to, you're worried about the number of American tanks that the Ukrainians have when American cities are rotting. Okay. Here's what I would have said if I were Pence.
That's a non sequitur.
It's a non sequitur, but here's what I would have said if I were Pence. Tucker, are you recommending another works projects administration? Are you recommending seriously that the federal government start injecting billions into American cities? Like, guess where that money's going to go? Guess what happened to the COVID money? Here in California, at least 30 billion federal dollars were stolen. 30 billion. Okay.
400 billion nationwide at last count.
How much?
400 billion.
How much?
400 billion.
We've budgeted 100 billion for Ukraine. So if we start, if we start injecting gigantic sums of money into corrupt American cities, it's going to disappear. It's going to go into people's pockets. All right. It's going to be no more effective than, what was that thing that Obama did? The
shovel-ready projects.
Exactly.
But it's going to be like the New Deal, where we dry up the credit and the labor supply and tank the economy.
Exactly. And here's what that Tucker Carlson is demanding, another New Deal.
Yeah.
He's conservative. Like, what's wrong with you people? Why are you
when was he ever a conservative?
He was never a conservative. And this, what he is he's a Russian propagandist. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason, for the 100th time, the reason we're supporting Ukraine is because we're heading off World War III. All right?
Yes.
Now, if we hadn't supported Ukraine and the Russians had gone from Ukraine into the Baltics, which is what they plan, which is what they've said.
Or Poland.
Or Poland, probably the Baltics is more likely, because they say that if they invade the Baltics, NATO will not do anything, and then
it's not going to care. Yeah.
They
call the Baltics the underbelly of NATO. If we invade Latvia.
That is a direct quote. So this is exactly analogous to what Hitler did beginning in 1938. Okay. Tucker even hit, Chamberlain said this is a quarrel between people far away about whom we know nothing about. Tucker said most Americans can't even find Ukraine on a map. That's the same concept.
By the way, that is a measure of what other than the ignorance of most Americans?
Exactly. Like, who gives a shit?
Who gives a flying crap? how many people in America can find Ukraine?
Who
I'll bet
cares?
you they cannot find the Straits of Hormuz if you give them 3 years and an encyclopedia to guide them.
They can't find Normandy. They can't find Vietnam. They can't find North Korea. I mean, so what?
They can't tell you what the capital of California is.
No, in Californians can't tell you the capital of California.
My point.
But none of the, I mean, what it comes down to is that Carlson is hoodwinking people as much as you know, any leftist politician hoodwinks leftists. I mean, Carlson is spewing out and out lies, and also weird ass bullshit that if you actually follow through on what he's calling for, suddenly we have FDR, you know, massive centralized government spending. What you need to tell people, like when they bring up American cities are festering, why are we giving money to Ukraine? It's like, well, first of all, Tucker, blame the voters in those cities, and number two, blame the mayors in those cities. The federal government, what the federal government can do, all it can do is to make this country through laws, make this country the best place in the world to do business in. That's about all the federal government. That's about all you want them to do. When we start pouring money into these places, it gets stolen. Okay.
No, and listen, we're not going to rehash the thing, but what's the common denominator between the big American cities that are tanking and have turned into shitholes?
There's only one common denominator.
They've been 5 decades under Democrat dominion. Fuck them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. You know, the only thing that we should do, if we do anything at all, is build a fence around them.
Exactly.
To contain the contagion.
Yeah.
You know, it's what obligation does a farmer in South Dakota has to pay the damage caused by Democrats stealing the government blind in Chicago?
Do Americans in red states have the responsibility to save Democrats from themselves? No. Of course not. But Carlson, he's demanding that the federal government do something, and that is big government leftism. That's what it is.
And that is not in the U.S. Constitution, because I do not see in the enumerated powers anything that says save Adams's ass in New York.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is nobody should be applauding this. Tucker Carlson didn't do anything. All he did was expose himself. I mean, of course, this crop of Republicans running, you know, they're jabbering about Vivek Ramaswamy soars in the polls. Yeah, from what, 14 to 18%? I mean,
a red, white, and blue dude in the chat just put a little quote from Ramawanki. He told Tucker that to deal with Russia, that we should do a deal with Russia where the Russians would keep the territory they already occupied in Ukraine. How fucking generous this asshole is with somebody else's property. Very conservative, I should say. In exchange for breaking off the alliance with China. What alliance?
There's no alliance. I mean,
they've been practically at war with each other for 50 years, asshole.
There's no alliance. And also, you're rewarding Russia for invading another country. You're rewarding them. Guess what they're going to do in the future? I mean, holy shit. Yeah. Do we have to have another fucking world conflagration because people are too stupid to stop it? It makes me sick. This is the first time in history that we're heading off a major conflict between the powers. This is the first time we're heading it off. It's not going to happen. The Russians aren't going to use their nukes. I would bet my house that their nukes don't work.
I'm not
But
taking that
also,
bet because
okay,
I'm not taking that bet. If they work, they're going to explode in their silos.
yeah, okay, the Wagner group. It turns out that Prigozhin's his assets weren't confiscated. He did meet with Putin. They denied it, but he did meet with Putin, and Putin begged him to stop. Putin sent him off to Belarus, and now one of the Wagner commanders said essentially that little weird ass freedom parade they called it, or whatever the hell, he said that was a test run. We're not done.
Yeah,
And now Putin is
and they're training in Mogilev.
exactly, they're training, and the Belarusian puppet is suddenly saying, you didn't tell me to stop him. You just told me to offer him asylum. So I did. And if you want to stop him, all Russian troops have left Belarus because they have to go fight in Ukraine. So Belarus is now the property of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Putin, in his infinite wisdom, just remember that, all you people who love him, he's now firing popular generals left and right. Guess what those guys are doing? They're joining Prigozhin. So Putin is basically ensuring that there will be a real coup with the army behind him. So,
and just to complete the picture, Poroshenko doesn't have shit to defend himself. He can go after students and civilians protesting how he stole an election, but he is no match for any band of 200 or more armed and trained anythings.
Yeah. No, the Wagners can fight Belarusans and they can fight Russians. They can't fight Ukrainians. It took them. The Ukrainians are on the verge of retaking Bakhmut. What's his name? I always forget his name. The Chechen leader.
Kadyrov?
Yes, Kadyrov sent his special forces to take over from Wagner. Those guys are so situationally unaware. They got blown up before they could even arrive.
I was going to say they got a major ass kicking. They ran over the Russians in the rear guard, escaping the front line.
Exactly. So nobody. Excuse me for being overheated about this. The final point I'd like to make for everybody is that Ukraine is a laboratory for the fourth revolution in military affairs. The Ukrainians have finally, their entire armed forces are now organized into micro teams that have, give or take, infantry fighting vehicles, an artillery piece, a tank, some kind of engineering vehicle, and what's called an ISR platform, which is an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance vehicle, whether it's manned or unmanned. So that's each micro team. The reason the Russians can't strike the Ukrainians and wipe out an assembly point is that the Ukrainians don't use assembly points. Nobody actually knows where the 9 brigades of assault troops are because they haven't assembled. The Russians, being Russians, keep assembling their troops, and then the Ukrainians hit them with long-range missiles, and they're all dead. The Russians aren't able to do that to Ukrainians because these brigades are all dispersed into micro teams. The micro teams all know where each other are on the battlefield, and when the time is right, they'll all come together and work together. Then they'll disperse again. This is the fourth revolution in military affairs. This is how we will fight the Chinese. So we're learning how to fight the Chinese by what the Ukrainians are doing.
And Absolutely. And by the way, we're getting out of YouTube.
Okay, good.
We've been there long enough. So, guys, The link to this program is right in the description, several lines down from the title. Just click and come over and join Quadverum TV in Odyssey. Bye-bye.